this is Marie from Funding for Good. I'm here on the home office front porch, and Mandy and I just got back from a small business center workshop. Today we were in Mount Airy teaching boot camp basics and had some amazing questions. But recently we've been seeing a trend. There are a lot of ministries that grow out of the faith-based organizations. So today and other days this past month, we heard this question. I really want to start a nonprofit, and it's something that's near and dear to my heart, but I'm currently doing it out of my church. So the question is this. What we need to consider is, do we want this to be considered a church ministry, or is it time to step apart and create a formal nonprofit for your organization or for this particular cause? This has been a question that has been puzzling a lot of our program participants, quite honestly. So these are things you might want to consider. First, your capacity. If you are wanting to do a ministry, let's just say that you want to provide a support group for victims of domestic violence, and that is something near and dear to your church congregation's heart, they might consider that an offshoot of one of your church ministries, and you wouldn't need to file for a separate tax-exempt status because your church already holds tax-exempt status. So it might be considered a ministry of your current church. But if you're going to grow and you're going to expand, you're going to hire staff, and this is going to be something that's wide-reaching in the community and exceeds your church's normal ministry levels, they might ask you to consider forming your own nonprofit so that you can get that director and officer's liability insurance, your nonprofit insurance, and relieve the church of that burden. So it really depends on what the church's priorities are, what your priorities are as an organization, and what your fundraising needs will be. Other things to consider would be fundraising. If you are going to have a mission and it's going to fall under the church's domain, when you apply for grants, you're going to have permission from the church to use that tax-exempt status ID. The churches from any grant foundations that send money would go to the church, or the funds from those nonprofits or those foundations would be going to your church. You would then have to request those funds and have an agreement with your church office to get the funds you need for your program. So you would need some fiscal policies in place if you're going to be running a program out of your church rather than forming your own nonprofit. The other thing to consider would be board development. If you have a ministry and you really want a board of directors or an advisory committee, then you need to consider, would that be a separate entity, or will that be the church's board of directors or elders governing body, or would you need to make sure you have at least one liaison on your advisory committee from the church board so that you are always in communication? There's a lot to consider when forming a nonprofit. Should you just wrap it under your church ministry, or should you do it on your own? Only you can answer that question, but that's just food for thought for today.